Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into something that promises a really unique way of looking at human connection.
Yeah, it's different. We're moving past the usual like personality tests or shared hobbies.
Exactly. This is a system called the Arreqqana Divine Matchmaking Compatibility Quiz. Sounds pretty grand, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
And we've got the source materials right here, the questionnaire itself, the scoring guide, the whole deal.
Right. So our plan for this deep dive is to really get into it, see how it works, what the pieces are.
And maybe see what insights it offers, about soul nature, relationships.
Yeah.
That deeper level of connection it talks about.
Yeah, the hook seems to be exploring compatibility through these things they call 7 divine threads.
Looking at connection on maybe a more energetic level. That seems to be the angle.
So these 7 divine threads, that's the foundation.
That's right. The whole system is built around them. Nar, Qha, Suja, Za, Laha, and Pa.
Okay.
And the sources basically describe these as fundamental ways a soul operates or like expresses itself.
Yeah.
Different core energies.
And you find out yours through a quiz.
Yep, a 100-question quiz. It's pretty
I'm
detailed.
looking down.
Into 10 chapters. They cover quite a range.
Like what sort of things?
Well, it starts with soul nature, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Then things like communication and expression, love and attraction, emotional depth.
Okay, so the core stuff.
Yeah, and physical presence, conflict and growth, shared purpose, even shadow and transformation, intuition, and then looking at long-term harmony.
Wow. Okay, so it really tries to touch on, well, pretty much everything.
It seems like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Quite comprehensive.
And how do the questions work with these threads?
Simple enough, really. Each question has options, A through G.
Right.
And each letter, A to G, corresponds directly to one of those 7 threads. So A is Nar, B is Qha, and so on.
Gotcha. So as you answer, you're basically tallying points for each thread.
Exactly. You're building a profile of which energies resonate most with you according to their system.
Okay, well, these names, Nar, Qha, Swaja, they're just names right now. Can we make them a bit more, real, maybe with some examples from the quiz?
Definitely. That's the best way to get a feel for them. Let's pull some questions.
Great. Where should we start? A, Nar.
Yep, Nar is A. So question 1 asks, your soul feels most like a deep ocean. That's option A.
Okay, deep ocean. What else?
Question 3 asks what guides you most, and option A is intuition.
Intuition. Okay, I'm getting a sense. Internal, maybe deep.
Exactly. The source even lists its sacred gift in question 10 as insight. It really points toward that deep internal world. Less about external logic, more inner knowing.
Right, that profound depth. And how does that show up, like, emotionally or physically in their descriptions?
Well, question 31 says, Nar's emotions feel like ocean tides. So powerful internal currents, maybe not always obvious on the surface.
Okay, tights.
And then for physical presence, question 45 offers option A as quiet and magnetic.
Quiet and magnetic. So not necessarily loud, but draws you in. That fits the ocean idea.
It reinforces that sense of a strong in a world.
Okay, so that's Nar. What about B, Qha? Sounds quite different.
Oh, completely different energy. Q1, option B is a blazing fire.
Blazing fire.
Well,
Okay, and guided by?
Question 3, option B, determination.
Right, so if Nar is the deep ocean, Qha is definitely the fire.
Absolutely. The source calls its internal flame a torch in Q5, and its sacred gift is drive. It's all action, will, moving forward. Conviction.
Intense. How does that intensity play out in relationships or love?
Well, question 16, expressing love. Option B is showing up and taking action. Very practical, very present.
Doing things, not just saying things.
Seems like it. And Q40 describes their emotional strength as intensity and vulnerability. Q85 says it's hard-won and powerful.
Hard one. So maybe not naturally vulnerable, but when they are, it means something.
That's the impression, yeah. It's significant for them.
Okay. Next is C, Sledge. What's the vibe here? The source links it to a flowing melody in Q1.
Serja is all about expression, voice, creativity. Q2 asks what you do alone with your thoughts, and option C is turn thoughts into words or art.
Ah, the creator type.
Seems like it. And Q4 links presence to charisma and expression. Its sacred gift, Q10, option C, is just expression. Very direct.
So channeling that inner world outwards, how do they communicate best?
Q13, option C, words, art, or sound. Finding that form.
And partners, what are they looking for?
Q24 gives option C as an ideal partner who feels like a muse.
A muse. Okay, so they want inspiration, someone who gets their creative energy.
Yeah, someone who receives and maybe inspires their expression.
All right. Moving on to D, Za. Q1 says, the soul feels like a mountain's root.
Sounds grounded.
Very grounded. Za is the anchor. Q3 says it's guided by ancestral knowing.
Ancestral knowing, wow.
And its internal flame, Q5, is a glowing coal, suggesting that deep, steady warmth, not a sudden flash. The sacred gift, Q10, is endurance.
Endurance, stability, foundation, roots. That makes sense.
Exactly. It's about drawing strength from deep down. And in relationships, how does that stability show up?
Well, Q14 says in conversations, option D is they often offer stability. Love, in Q26, feels like a slow-burning hearth.
A hearth, cozy, reliable.
And their role in partnership, Q70, is described as hold the root of the bond. And Q100 asks what love should be. Option D, steady.
Steady, yep, definitely the reliable one, consistent.
That's za.
Okay, E is la. This sounds warmer. A warm circle of hands from Q1.
La is absolutely the heart thread. Q3 says it's guided by emotional connection.
Makes sense.
Its internal flame, Q5, is a candle in the center of the heart. And its sacred gift, Q10, is simply love. It's all empathy, connection, nurturing.
The nurturer. How does La express that love or handle vulnerability?
Q16, option E, expresses love by speaking gently and often. Very verbal, very tender.
Gentle words.
And Q40 lists their emotional strength as sensitivity. And Q90 is interesting. They trust someone most when they love me gently in shadow.
Gently in shadow. So needing that soft touch, especially when things are tough.
Exactly. That consistent, gentle reassurance seems key for Lo.
All right, F is Tam. A shifting mask of light in Q1 sounds kind of mysterious and guided by inner transformation.
Tam is definitely the shapeshifter, the alchemist of the group. Q2 says when alone, you follow the spiral inward.
Spiral inward.
And the sacred gift, Q10, is change. It's all about metamorphosis, introspection, constant evolution.
Change as a core principle. How does that affect like communication or love?
Communication, Q13, option F, is best through symbol, image, or story. Maybe less direct, more layered.
Okay, symbolic.
And love, Q26, option F, feels like a secret language. Suggests a really deep shared understanding, maybe beyond the surface level.
A secret language. Intriguing. What about their shadow side?
Q81 describes the shadow, option F, as a shapeshifter that tests me. So that constant change is both their power and their challenge.
Right, embracing the transformation. Okay, last one. G is Pow. A child's first laugh in Q1. Sounds light.
Totally. Pair is the spark, guided by spontaneous desire in Q3.
Spontaneous desire. Fun.
Its internal flame, Q5, is a firework. Bright, quick, celebratory. The sacred gift, Q10, is spark. Its lightness, playfulness, the moment.
The spark of joy. How does Pa, move through the world?
Q7 describes it as moving as a firefly. That light, maybe fleeting but bright presence.
A firefly, I like that. And connection, flirting.
Q28, option G for flirting, teasing and laughing, very playful.
Makes sense.
Their emotional strength, Q40, is listed as resilience. And their view on love, Q100, is simple. Love should be delightful.
Delightful. Just pure, unburdened energy.
That's the feel of Pa. Yeah.
Okay, wow. So just going through those examples, you really start to get a feel for these distinct energies the system is talking about, from deep oceans to fireworks.
Right. It covers a lot of different ways of being, from your inner world to how you connect or handle conflict.
So you answer the 100 questions, you tally up your A's, B's, C's, etc. Then what? How does the scoring work for compatibility?
It's actually pretty simple. Your highest score is your primary divine thread. That's like your core energy, according to the source.
Your main flavor.
Exactly. And your second highest score is your secondary divine thread. Sometimes they call it a shadow or complementary thread. It's like a strong supporting energy or maybe an area for growth.
Primary and secondary. Okay. And compatibility comes from comparing those.
Yes, you compare your primary and secondary with your partners. The guide lays out 6 main compatibility types based on how those threads line up.
6 types. Okay, what's the first one?
First is the harmonious flame. This is when you both have the same primary thread, like 2 NARs or 2 QS.
Matching energies. The source calls it.
Soul mirroring.
Soul mirroring. Sounds nice, like you just get each other.
Yeah, it suggests that deep resonance, a natural ease, because you operate from the same core energy.
But is there a downside?
The guide does mention watching out for stagnation.
Okay. Like maybe too comfortable, not enough challenge for growth.
That seems to be the idea. You might need to consciously bring in other energies or perspectives.
Right. Comfort, but potential for getting stuck. Okay, what's type 2?
That's a sacred mirror. This is where your primary is their secondary, and their primary is your secondary.
Oh, like a swap. So if I'm mainly Q-ha with secondary pa, they'd be mainly pa with secondary Q-ha.
Exactly that kind of flip. The guide calls this a balanced dance.
A balanced dance. What does that mean for the dynamic?
It suggests a really nice flow. You each embody what the other has as a strong supporting energy. The guide says you're learning from each other.
So you kind of help develop each other's secondary side.
That seems to be the implication.
Yeah.
Your strength support their growth areas and vice versa.
Cool. Okay, type 3.
Complementary weave. The example they give is la and za, which they call rooted love.
Rooted love. La the heart, za the root.
Exactly. This type is about threads that naturally balance each other out through the differences. They enhance each other.
So not the same, not swapped, but fitting together.
Yeah, the guide calls it powerful compatibility through polarity. The differences work together to make the whole stronger. Like La's warmth meeting Za's stability creates something really solid and nurturing.
Nice. Okay, type 4 sounds. Potentially intense growth pairing.
It can be, yeah. The guide mentions pairs like Strisha and Za or Kuha and Nar here.
Expression and instability, or action and stillness.
Right. The system says these threads are more directly challenging. There's both attraction and friction.
Attraction and friction. So sparks, but maybe not always easy sparks.
Definitely. It says it's a pairing that demands conscious work for deep transformation.
Conscious work. So you have to be willing to face the challenges it brings up. Like, Strija wanting expression might feel blocked by Za's steadiness, or Za might feel overwhelmed by Strija.
That kind of dynamic seems plausible based on the descriptions, but the system frames it positively. If you do the work, the growth can be profound.
Okay. High potential, high effort, maybe? What's type 5?
The evolutionary spiral. Examples given are Tam and Nar or Pa and Za.
Transformation and stillness, or playfulness and stability. What's the idea here?
The system suggests one partner's energy represents a path, the other is either moving towards or maybe even actively avoiding.
Ooh, interesting.
So the relationship itself invites transformation. But, and this is key, the source notes that timing matters.
Timing matters. Why? What could that mean?
Maybe that both people need to be ready for that specific kind of growth or change the pairing brings up. If one person is resisting what the other fundamentally represents, it could be really tough.
Right. You have to be open to where the spiral leads. Okay, and the last type, number 6.
Divine dissonance. The source calls these rare, raw matches.
Rare, raw matches. Doesn't sound easy.
No. It involves opposing elements, clashing needs.
Yeah.
The guide says it demands spiritual maturity and deep clarity.
Wow.
And it's often seen as short-term unless balanced. So core energies that are fundamentally quite different, needing a lot of understanding to work long-term.
Okay, so those are the 6 main types, but you mentioned the guide gets even more specific.
It does. It has the Arreqqana compatibility pair guide, which gives specific names and identities to pairings based on both primary and secondary threads.
Oh, cool, like little archetypes for the pairs.
Exactly. And then the names are really evocative. Like, remember Nar and Kuha, stillness and action?
Yeah.
When they pair up, primary or secondary, it's called the soul fire.
The soul fire, I love that.
The description is stillness meets action, deep instinct, and brave becoming. Really captures that blend.
It really does. Deep instinct and brave becoming. Wow. Okay, give me another one. What about Kuha, the fire, with Za, the root?
That one is the iron core.
The iron core.
Makes sense. Described as fire forged into endurance, strength, loyalty. So Kuha's drive gets grounded by Za's stability, creates something really strong.
Yeah, solid. What about Sia, the expressor, and Lala, the heart?
The heart speaker.
Perfect.
The description.
Yeah.
Creative love and emotional poetry, romantic, connective. You can just hear the security expression merging with the Lala love energy there.
Totally. It paints a picture. How about Za, the root, with Pa, the spark? Stability and playfulness.
That's the root spark.
Root spark, that's fun.
And the description is stability meets play, grounded joy, home that dances. It shows how even that solid Za energy can be lifted by Pa's lightness.
A home that dances. I like that image. Any other really interesting ones?
Oh, Tam the Transformer with Pa the Spark is pretty cool. The Trickster Flame.
The Trickster Flame, what's that about?
Playful transformation, thrives in chaos, laughter, rebirth. Sounds like a dynamic, maybe unpredictable, but ultimately life-affirming pairing.
Wow. Yeah, brings together change and joy. And there are more like these.
Loads more. The guide lists things like Nar plus Tam as the hidden door, Suja plus Tam as the mirror voice, Disal plus Tam as the soft spiral. Each one has this unique shared flame identity.
A shared flame identity that suggests the pairing creates its own unique energy field.
That seems to be the idea, yeah. It influences how they navigate life together.
Okay, so we've gone through the 7 threads, the quiz structure, the scoring.
The 6 main compatibility types.
And I even touched on some of these really specific, evocative pair archetypes from the guide.
It's quite a detailed system they've built.
Yeah. It really is. Which brings us back to, the big question. What does all this actually mean for you listening right now? Why spend time exploring a system like this?
That is the key question, isn't it? I think it offers a totally different lens, a different vocabulary for understanding yourself and your relationships.
Right. It moves beyond just personality traits.
Yeah, it's trying to get at these more fundamental energetic currents, these soul natures and how they interact. It's less about judgment, more about recognition.
Exactly. It gives you this framework, with structured language like harmonious flame or growth pairing or root spark.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe using that framework helps you understand why some connections feel so easy or why others feel like they have that attraction and friction.
It could definitely offer some aha moments, a way to articulate dynamics that you might feel intuitively but haven't had words for. It's like a map of the energetic landscape of connection based on its own rules.
Yeah, a different kind of map. So we've done this deep dive into the Arreqqana Divine Matchmaking Compatibility Quiz System.
We looked at the 7 threads, the quiz, the scoring, the compatibility types, and those pair archetypes.
The source material presents it all as quite profound, a sacred system of soul, shadow, love, spirit, and sacred future. It's definitely a unique perspective.
It certainly is detailed and distinctive.
Which leaves us, and you, with maybe a final thought to chew on. How might just thinking about yourself or the important people in your life through the lens of these different energetic flames, these divine threads, shift how you see those connections?
Yeah. What new questions does that raise?
Yeah.
About understanding the push and pull, the harmony and the challenge in the relationships that shape your life, something to ponder.